Hello everyone, I Anjali Majumdar welcome you all in my new video where I will be explaining economic planning. Before I get into the topic, there is one request, please do subscribe my channel by pressing the bell icon so that you will get all the latest notifications. Okay, so before I begin, let's first understand the meaning of planning. This topic is important from class 12th CBSE point of view and from ISC class 11th point of view. Very important chapter, planning. So let's first understand what is the planning. I give you a situation to understand. Say for your exams are coming next month and you are having 5 subjects. Okay, in which you find 2 out of 5 subjects, 2 or 3 subjects are such which are hard for you. So you have to plan in such a manner so that the hard subject or the hard lesson, hard chapters should be allotted more time, and the timing and gaps should be in such a manner so that all subjects and all 5 subjects should be completed. You should get well time to revise before you appear for the exam. So this systematic coordination of preparing subjects all together, lessons, this is called planning in a simple way, right? How you define planning? Now, how will you define a plan? So that's also simple. We'll be first understanding the meaning of planning. What is this planning? So planning in simple terms, it's a systematic coordination of resources to solve or to get a desired output. Planning is something where you know that you have that resources. Being a country, you know that you have so many natural resources, right? Now you have to coordinate those resources in such a manner so you must get a desired output. So planning is basically a systematic coordination between two things, resources and ends. Okay, you utilize those resources, you allocate those resources to get the desired output. Now when it comes to economic planning, what is this economic here? What is this economic over here? So economic planning, what's the difference between planning and economic planning? Planning is something you are working to coordinate things, to coordinate resources in order to get a desired output. But when it comes to economic planning, here you are mainly emphasizing on the natural resources or the economic resources you are having in your country. Okay, systematically you organize those, you plan out, you chalk out a plan to utilize those resources, those natural, those economic resources in such a manner to get a desired output in a limited period of time, in a fixed period of time. So that's economic planning. Economic planning refers to a planning, it's a set of systematic coordination of resources. What sort of resources? All the natural resources, right, or the economic resources, so that you earn a desired result out of it, you earn some productive things out of it, you earn a profit. That is economic planning. Now what's the importance of being in this planning and for a country? So here you will find in the next slide here introductions and objectives. So in a very simple and layman language, I've written the meaning over here, that it is a process of realizing well-defined goals by optimum utilization of available resources. So well-defined goals, what is this well-defined goals? That we know, say we need to produce 50,000 tons of coal. So for that, for the process of producing a coal, that mining process, then refining it, everything, right, that has to be done in a proper planning with the proper systematic coordination. So this systematic coordination of achieving a desired result is called economic planning. The word economic here adds over here, why it gets added here, to make you understand how to utilize or allocate those natural resources to get the desired output in a limited or in a certain period of time. Now let's talk about its objectives. So before talking to objectives, see, if I talk about the world, usually the development of world has been classified into based on two historical events, and that historical event is World War. I'm referring to First and Second World War. So before, pre-war or post-war, there is a lot of difference in the opinion and working of countries' economy. Post-war, many independent countries understood the importance of planning. By if you are having a good planning, you know that you have that much quantity of resource. Now it is up to you how will you gain from that available resources, right? So for that you need a planning. So today's world, every now and then, all countries are struggling and planning to deal with the ever changing trends of demand and supply. So planning is that important. So now what are the objectives of planning? So here you will see the first is economic growth. Now economic growth is something very important. For economic growth, you need a planning. Now how will you bring a economic growth in a country? If you have development in all sectors of an economy. And now if I talk about all sectors, I'm talking about primary sector, I'm talking about secondary sector, and I'm talking about tertiary sector. Primary, that deals with the forestry, agriculture part. Secondary, that represents your manufacturing firms, right? And tertiary, that represents your service sector. So if you have a well planned towards all these three sectors, then you can have a good economic growth. How will you determine an economic growth? If you remember, I've explained it in the previous video, where per capita income I've used a word. So per capita income, that means per individual income in a nation, in a financial year or in a year, right? So economic growth represents, how it is represented by the per capita growth. So if there is a per capita growth, how will a per capita growth will be there? If all people are engaged in a productive work, they are getting some income, they are producing something that adds to the economic growth of a country. Then second objective is poverty alleviation. So poverty is something, it's I would say it is existing in every country. You cannot say ki, there is no country where no poverty is there. Poverty is something, it's like a disease, right? So every country keeps struggling to remove or eradicate this thing, because poverty is a kind of a blot. It's a blot for any countries in the image of any country. So we had a planning commission. The commission is formed with a purpose to come up with the 5-year plans. So in that 5-year plans, there was a period where Garibi Hatao Andolan, this program had been introduced. Garibi Hatao Andolan, which is very important. This in the 5th plan period, this scheme was adopted, or this policy was adopted, Garibi Hatao, where government put all its focus to remove or eradicate poverty from the country. So poverty becomes an objective of planning. Then third, you see here, employment generation, another important point. See, if employment is something that represents the economic growth of any country, if there is no employment, then there is no demand. There is no demand, then there is no production, there is no employment, there is no income, then there is no per capita income growth, right? Everything is cyclical. Okay, so planning commission had been in their mind, or had been in their policy setup, in their framework, where they invested a lot of amount to generate more employment. I'll give you few schemes names. These schemes have been employed in order to enhance the employment. For example, you might have heard about Manrega, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Then there is a IRDP, Integrated Rural Development Program. Then there is NRY, Nehru Rozgar Yojana, JRY, Jawahar Rozgar Yojana, and so many. So these are the schemes exclusively formed for the purpose of generating more employment in the country. Then there is another point, self-reliance. Self-reliance is something that had been put into the planning period with the purpose of removing dependency of India on foreign countries. Now what sort of dependence? Like, first, self-reliance implied like foreign loans and grants. So India should be in a position to end its dependence. It should end its dependency on foreign loans or grants. Secondly, you can understand it by eliminating the dependence on importing of goods. Like, have you heard about this Make in India campaign started by NDA government? What's the purpose behind it? The purpose is that India should become self-independent. That they should be self-reliant instead of depending on others. Instead of depending on imports, let's make manufacture within our own country. And thirdly, there is a attainment of self-sustaining or self-generating growth. If you are self-reliant, you can generate a lot of employment, right? Generate sufficient savings, so to finance the investment activity in the economy. And lastly, you will see here modernization. Now modernization is another important. Modernization of Indian economy is is a necessary step, progressive step, I would say, which has been introduced in the sixth plan. Now, what modernization in what respect? First, you can understand it with the increasing share of industrial and service sector in national product. That means to come up with such a scheme where industrial sector or service sector are given boost or incentive to increase or enhance their production. Secondly, you can understand modernization by coming up with a diversified goods, large variety of products, manufacturing diversified or developing manufacturing large variety of goods. What sort of goods? It may include manufacturing engineering goods, chemical, petroleum, and products like that. Thirdly, you can understand modernization from technology side. Technology, that means to bring the most advanced and modern technology within India. Then fourth point, modernization can be understood from this point of view of bringing institutional changes. How institutional changes? Like drastic change in the educational policies, educational institutions, drastic change in financial institutions, railways, network, infrastructure development. So these are all come under the modernization part. So these were the objectives of planning. Now, plans period, referring to the plan period, here I have made a chart of 5-year planning period. First 5-year plan started with from the year 1951, which continued till 1956. Second 5-year plan started with 1956, continued till 61. Third 5-year plan you see here 61 to 66. Annual plans 66 to 69. Then fourth, fifth, sixth, in the same manner you will see a 12th 5-year plan which had completed in 2012 to 2017. So earlier in India we have a planning commission. The purpose is the planning commission, with every changing government, the government usually forms for the 5 years. This planning period usually goes for the 5 period. And whoso power is governing in the center, they come up with the help of planning commission. They plan out which sectors should be given more focus. So accordingly plan periods have been mentioned, but now this planning commission has been substituted, or planning commission has been changed into Niti Aayog, a new body, a new governing body, that is called Niti Aayog, which I will be explaining in my next video. If you have any doubts, please do comment in the comment section. Thank you.